And today we're doing a dojo. I've been here in a while, so oldie but a goodie, I say. Not that old though.
No, not that old. Not that old.
Okay. So today's topic is going to be secret objections, and what I mean by that is are objections that the client keeps secret from us. We all have objections that people have, and they voice them. Maybe they're concerned about something in particular. They might be concerned about who you are over the phone, your identity, and what you're going to do with the information, and they'll say so, right? But some people will just keep it to themselves, and you have to try to dig it out of them, right? So I've kind of broken it up into two parts. So there can be objections during the discovery process. And then secret objections during the closing process when you're trying to close that sale. Yeah. So let's first talk about secret objections during the discovery portion of the script there, where maybe you're noticing they answer the phone and they'll answer maybe some basic questions, but suddenly they clam up, right? Or they will answer your question as minimally as possible, right? And you can sense you're just having to pull from them, right? Yeah. And have y'all gotten that before?
Yes,
yeah.
Definitely.
Well, what are some things that you do to overcome objections that you feel might be some secret objections that they're just not voicing to you during the discovery process? Penny, what do you do if you get that feeling?
Sometimes there are clues what it could be, like noise, a lot of noise in the background, or you can tell they're driving. And then you have an easy way to go. It sounds like you're driving. I don't want to have, let's talk another time. You can use that. If there's no real clues, then just some general questions about just kind of saying, well, I sense that you are having some trouble with this conversation.
Yeah, just addressing it head on, even if you don't know what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll go, yeah, my daughter usually does this with, or something like that. Or yeah, I don't, or whatever. Sometimes they'll just answer, and tell you what it is. If you just put it out there I can sense that you're having trouble or struggling with this conversation. Is there something I should know, or you should tell them, that you want to tell me, or,
Right, you're addressing the obvious elephant in the room. Exactly.
Sometimes that helps. It does the trick.
I agree. That's definitely a good tactic to pull that information out of them. Alice, have you come across that where you felt like somebody was kind of resisting, but they didn't want to say outright what it was?
I had a gentleman last week that I called, and he was just like, I started talking, telling him who I was, and he's like, well, what information do you have? And every little thing's like, what street am I on?
Oh.
What's my zip code? What
he was
what
testing you.
Right. And I was like, sir, I sense that you're a little hesitant, but let me explain who I am and who I represent, and then if you want to look everything up and then give me a call back, I can give you my number. And I think he told me that he had been getting so many phone calls. He just was really skeptical about, revealing his information. And so we did end up talking. And we didn't talk long. He wanted to call back, but I did, get some information from him. He didn't really want to make an appointment, but still, he's like, I'm going to call back after I explained who I was and what the name, our company values and different things. He said he's going to look everything up.
But you just felt like he was testing you, and you couldn't figure out why.
He was like, he was like, yes. I was like, and you're here. And I said, but hold up. Let me.
He said, what are we doing here now?
I do understand the hesitation. Getting bombarded with calls and mailers and everything. And so he was okay after that, but it was just funny because he was being real quiet.
He turned the tables.
And and what's my zip code? And
what's how the turntables have turned, right? Yeah, that's an office reference for Jacob there. But so a couple of ways you can addressed that or ways that I've addressed it that I found helpful is right away. I just really commend them for being skeptical in the first place, because I said, you know what, I actually, I'm happy that you were questioning who I am, because that's what I would tell my family to do. That's what I would do.
Exactly.
And some things that I have been able to do to successfully overcome that objection are, I have my identifiers in my email signature, my picture, my signature, my license number, our company name and address. I said, you know what? Hey, I absolutely, I said, I am happy to prove who I am. Absolutely. And anybody that you talk to who is legitimate should also be able to do the same thing. And I'll forward them my email and let them take a look at it. They look through our website, kind of I said, no, take your time and we'll do it. You check me out while I'm on the phone. That's fine, and do your little PI work. And I've had a few people where they said, okay, I know I see you are. So let's continue the conversation. And we did. And it turned into to be a sale, but that was an easy thing to do that, if you think on your feet that you can easily do so.
Yeah.
Also, it just kind of, going into the script, if they question you, then say, if you go right into the script, it starts telling, exactly who we are, how long we've been around, and, but it's definitely for sure, you addressed it, right? You didn't just let it continue on. So perfect. And Mike, have you come across some objections you felt like that they were keeping to themselves, resistance in the discovery process?
Absolutely. I'll piggyback off of what Ms. Tony was saying. A couple that I was talking to on the phone, we set an appointment. I talked to the wife first, and then we set an appointment to talk to both parties. Part of the conversation was more of introducing myself to him, make sure I was a credible person. We had a conversation about similar backgrounds and him going into the Navy, and I was explaining I was going into the Navy until I broke my back, and a term that I used that I overheard him saying that term is a Army, not a Navy.
And he thought you had him on hold and you couldn't hear him, and he was talking to the wife.
And so he's telling his wife this. And so he didn't believe what I was saying. So I overheard that. And the other part was they were doing this to compare us against another company. And anyway, once I took him off mute, I told him, I said, here's where I'm at. Yes, you're exactly right. I had you on mute and I overheard, and let me address this very quickly. I know, and I don't mind. The issue is that's a military term, an Army term, because I was not in the Navy, sir. And I told you that. I broke my back before I got in the Navy. And that term is at MAPS, Military Entrance Processing Station. And this is at Fort Sam, Houston. So that's where I was being processed and I was sworn in. And then right as I'm going to a delayed entry program, I was DEP discharged, delayed entry program discharged. So when I say MOS, you're exactly right. The military issued that to me, the Army did, in behalf of the Navy, because I was not at a naval station. So that's why it's said that way. He goes, oh, okay. I said, the other part is you're doing exactly what every person should do. Compare, educate yourself. It's all about what you're pulling out of your pocket every month and what's being charged to you. So it makes sense. I don't mind getting into this uncomfortable hot water, but we can always get ourselves out of it because I'm truthful and forward. So let's continue.
Right, and you did it in a very tactical, elegant way that let him know, hey, I heard what you said, but you didn't try to embarrass him.
Yeah.
I think he might have been taken aback by it a little bit, but it paid off in the end because they continued the conversation. I think that kind of cleared up any, concern on his part.
Especially when you're in that process of just introducing yourself and trying to build, some common ground and
credibility,
especially if you're being undermined right at the very beginning of this conversation, so it's tough. very
Yeah.
tough. But yeah, so I figured that he's retired military. He wouldn't mind the directness and probably appreciate the directness,
Mhm.
but not in an insulting manner.
Right,
I just wanted
right.
just an informative, and persuasive. We'll get back on track and move forward.
Yeah, but it's always a risk, when you try to call somebody out on something you overheard them saying.
Yeah.
So God, the conversation could have gone either way,
Either
but
way.
I think you were very tactical about it. And Ryan, he took it I think he took it in a way that you just wanted to correct some.
Absolutely.
some
I wanted to make
information.
sure
Mhm.
he was getting somebody that was going to fight on his behalf.
Right, because if he felt like you were being dishonest
Right.
about something little, well, how can the trust,
Right.
how can you continue
Something so
on?
big after that. Yeah,
Right.
Mhm.
absolutely.
And no, it was successful, and the conversation continued, and it went very well to the end.
Yep.
So no, that's right. A secret objection. He thought it was secret, but it wasn't quite
Right.
as secret as he believed. Yep, absolutely.
Thankfully,
Right,
really, because
right.
otherwise you wouldn't have been able to continue the
Right.
conversation, or it would have been not as meaningful, for
Mhm.
sure.
I think so, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Allison, I know you've been here a very short while, but you've been in sales a long, long time. Surely you've come across some secret objections where you felt some restraint or,
Correct.
from people that they didn't want to tell you what it was. But give us an example of something like that and how you overcame it.
Well, definitely timeshares was one incident. And what's really important, I find, is to do all of that discovery right at the beginning so that they can't have that objection at the end. I'm buying a second home, just can't afford it right now, or my son's going to college, or so you ask all those questions front during the discovery process, and therefore, as you're working with them, you're hearing what they're going to be saying.
Yeah.
You-
Or you can address
Right,
those things
exactly
all
that.
during.
And we're all human,
Right.
so we've all felt those same exact
Mhm.
things.
Yeah,
So-
somebody might have something personal going on in their life that's
Yeah.
affecting them from being able to feel like they can give you that information, or something maybe they feel they'll be judged for, so they don't want to tell you that.
Right.
Mhm,
Yeah, and I think anyone who's done sales for quite a bit of time, you can tell,
Mhm.
if it's a money objection, they really don't have it, or come on, you know that they have it, and they're just saying that it's because they're not interested. It's they're just there for the free whatever,
Yeah, but you have to address it so you can know what it is, right?
Right.
Yeah, don't just glaze over it.
Mhm.
So then now let's talk about the second half of that, which is objections during the closing process, which is something Penny and myself are doing now here. And then, of course, Allison now and other facets of sales life, where it seems like everything's fine. They're very open and honest. It seems to be with everything, and the rapport seems to be good, and you're jiving, and things are flowing really well. And you get to the close, and then suddenly there's the objection, right? But they don't want to say. All of a sudden, you get resistance for the first time, maybe even
Right.
during the closing portion of it. And sometimes it catches you off guard, and they still don't want to say what it is. You get what are some objections where they say, oh, well, I got to think about it. But that's not what it is. That you went over everything.
Right.
And they should feel comfortable with it. And neither did they have questions during the educational process or anything like that. Some examples of that, perfect example, were Saturday, I had a lady who I had maybe the week before. We had done all the discovery and education on a Friday, did scope of appointment, and we were ready to go. So that Saturday morning, we just give her a call, sign her up. We both agreed on that. She felt comfortable with everything. Called her Saturday, asked her if she had any questions since she slept. No, everything was good to go. We get about halfway through the application to the doctor section, where I'm asking her, does she want to, name a primary physician, which, she had no problem with her doctor. So suddenly she kind of stopped and said, well, actually, let me, we don't have to do this right now. We can wait a little later, AEP, right, closer to the end of the year. I said, you can, and but definitely you want to get it out of the way because everybody and their mother is trying to sign up during this time, and if you wait till the very end, you risk definitely having a big delay in your cards and sometimes problems with claims paying because it takes a little while for everything to sync up. And she just kept saying suddenly, she just kind of wanted to think about it, and I just thought it was so odd. And I said, I know. I thought to myself, I know there's nothing for her to think about, right? So I just addressed it head on, and I said, I can tell something is concerning you. What is bothering you, or what is it? What's going through your mind right now? Because she was kind of quiet. Penny, you're needed out there on the sales floor in a second, I guess. So, anyways, what happened with that is, I prodded her. I said, what's your concern? And I couldn't possibly think what it would be. I did thorough discovery. There were no questions. Again, everything was easy, free flowing until just this very moment. I couldn't think of why that asking, did she want to go ahead and designate her own doctor as primary in the app? That was pretty, she loved her doctor. She just raved about him. I just couldn't imagine a possible objection that she just didn't want to say. Finally, I did get out of her that for some reason, she thought that by naming her doctor and this new plan that wasn't going to start till January, that we were going to go ahead and send information to the doctor's office. And she was concerned it might confuse them, that she wasn't changing till January. And I mean, nowhere in the script does it address anything like that. That's just kind of like an odd, unusual. I just never even thought that somebody would think that, right? And she had been on Medicare many years, and she had changed plans before. And I dug into that a little further, and she had mentioned how the last time she changed plans with another agent, I guess they went ahead and notified the doctor somehow, and before it turned over or went into effect, and she just felt like that caught her off guard, and that maybe confused them, even though I don't think it did. And so I'll tell you what, I said, the only thing I can think of how that would have gotten, communicated to the doctor's office is if maybe they put the name of your primary care physician in the application, and maybe they went ahead and communicated that to them. I couldn't tell you that. That's the only link I could think of. I said, but if you want to avoid that, we can just not name a primary care physician in the application. Will that make you feel more comfortable? And she said, yeah, actually, it would. And I said, okay, great. That's an easy fix, easy peasy. So I said, you know what, we'll just leave that blank. And then when the plan goes into effect January 1, you can just call if you like, and the insurance company, and just designate your primary care physician at that time. But I just couldn't imagine what in the world she wanted to wait for. But after digging out, and right, it was a secret objection, and it was an objection that wouldn't have been addressed. It's just kind of off the wall objection. But by prodding and just saying out, what are you thinking? What's going through your head right now? She told me. So that was her little secret objection that, again, I never could have guessed, but it was there. And, and it may be a concern now, from another person I come across, but sometimes you get these really interesting objections that don't even cross your own mind. But some common phrases I will ask them that I feel like have been successful for me, whether it be objections during the discovery process or the closing process, are as follows. Sometimes I'll ask them directly, what is it that's making you uncomfortable? And that's really common during the discovery process, right? They're usually uncomfortable from the beginning. And if you get past that, usually the closing is a lot smoother. So I'll just ask them right now, I can tell you're uncomfortable right now. What is it that's making you uncomfortable? And again, you have all those things in your back pocket to, if it's that they're just uncomfortable about who you are, whether you're a valid, agent or not, you can shoot them the email. You can continue through the script with who we are as an agency, and you can tell a little bit about yourself so that they can feel comfortable with that. I'll ask them, what's bothering you? What bothers you about that? Or, another one will be, what's making you hesitate? That seems to pull a lot of things out of people, especially during the closing process. Well, what's making you hesitate? Like that lady, what's making you want to push this off till later when you can do it now? And, I tell people, look, insurance is boring and it's tedious. I'm weird. I love it. But for most people, it's not that way. Why wouldn't you want to get this done as opposed to just thinking about it and looking it up and researching it? Like, who wants to go live your life? Don't think about your insurance anymore. Just get it done, move on, do more interesting things. You're retired. Surely you have things that you like to do other than insurance. Awesome. What are you thinking? When I like that lady that gave me that weird objection, I could tell the wheels were turning. And I just said, what are you thinking? What's going through your mind? Walk me through it, right? And another one is, what's keeping you from doing this today? Especially when they're saying, oh, well, let's, you know what, that sounds good, but let's talk about it next week. That's like, the famous objection is like a gut punch, right? That sounds really great, but let's do it tomorrow. Or let's, what's keeping you from being able to do this today? And it could just be, well, they just looked at their watch and suddenly they realized, oh crap, I got to go to a doctor's appointment. But you don't know that. And if that's it, then okay, perfect. That's a reasonable objection. Okay, perfect. When you're done with your doctor's appointment and we can just get it done and taken care of. Or maybe, I had in the middle of a conversation, suddenly somebody had their grandkids dropped off and it was a madhouse and they just couldn't hear and they couldn't concentrate after we'd been on the phone for an hour already. And then just to add that on top of all of it, they couldn't hear. I think I could tell that they were just kind of saying, yeah, okay. And they weren't really hearing me. Yeah. And that's fine. That's a reasonable objection. But, and you kind of just plan accordingly with, oh, okay, well, when are the grandkids going to be picked up? And when can we kind of just wrap it up for you, right? So those are some common things I'll say to get people just to open up to me, because again, it could be something so simple that maybe can't be overcome. And yes, we do have to reschedule for another time to wrap it up. Or again, if it's something that really is something they wanted to touch on, but you didn't, then you want to address it right then and there. Just like with that lady, that was such an easy fix and an easy answer. If I hadn't asked to try to get into her head, we might have been waiting until next week and put it off and forgot all about it on her part, or she would have gotten tied up with grandkids. But that was an easy one to just, and then I could tell, I felt it in her voice that she just felt this weight was lifted. That was a big thing to her. To me, it's like, that's like a nothing issue, but to her, it was a big issue, right? And it was, no matter how big or small, it was keeping her from closing. So definitely address the elephant in the room. Don't be shy about it. Say what's on your mind so that they will say what's on their mind, right? So that's my recommendation. Does anybody else have any other input on this?
I just say, just like, pretty much what you said, but when they say I need to think about it, I'll say, can you let me know what is there to think about?
What's to think about? Yeah, exactly.
What can I clear up here?
Right,
Yeah.
because it's usually, even if it's just, sometimes, right, they'll be kind of embarrassed to say, well, you were talking and I couldn't write something down fast enough. Could you kind of go over that again? And something that could be so simple, right? But they're thinking, oh, I just don't want to say anything and I'll go research it on my own and get back, but that's such an easy thing.
Yes.
Right. So, just addressing it can sometimes just
saying it. I mean, they actually look more relieved. Whenever I was doing in sales, they look more relieved when you actually say that. So.
Right. And right. Make it feel like, I call this the no judgment zone when I'm talking. I said, there's no question that's dumb, and when you make them feel comfortable that they can open up to you about something that they would have maybe been embarrassed about, that's when you're really going to get that sale, because there just won't be any more objections, whether they're apparent objections or hidden objections like we talked about today.
If I could interject, I would add to that is don't hesitate when it comes to asking that. Be prepared to get, if it's positive or negative or whatever it is, but we got to ask that question and not be afraid of that. Not afraid, but just
don't be afraid of the answer that's going to come.
Absolutely. we got to find out anyway. So let's be prepared.
It'll come to the surface.
Absolutely.
And better now than later.
Or
never.
Yeah, because it'll come up and bite you somewhere.
And it could hurt the trust issue.
Absolutely.
Your relationship, trust.
Absolutely.
You have to build that rapport with them.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So before I choke on my who knows what, we'll wrap it up for today's dojo. I think that was a really good, productive one, especially for newer agents, and excellent. So that'll be it for our time today. And this has been Victoria Lewis, and say hi to your mom for me.